Love them.
That's
Uh,
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
nice. Hey,
They are.
I've got to
They're
say,
beautiful.
so Teresa went to the Song of the Desert in Alice 2 weeks ago. You know that choir, an Aboriginal choir? They are so fantastic.
yeah.
And
Oh, awesome.
she was blown away by the whole thing. It was really, really well done. And those singers who are not, I think they came to the Opera House a couple of weeks back. They're really great. They're so inspiring.
Cool.
Ah, cool.
Now, so talking of Indigenous, Mick, so absolutely understand your point. Is there a way we can talk about who you meet as a guest? I mean, taking out
Look, I
the,
think, Peter, it's okay to look at that from a certainly it's what we do in Indonesia and Melanesia, but not in Northern Australia.
all right,
So certainly everything like that is done. We deal with remote communities and spend our time doing all the legwork beforehand. So that mainly focuses in Indonesia and Melanesia for those remote areas.
yeah,
Most of the stuff in Northern Australia is just so regulated these days.
Yeah.
There's no more, there's no more sort of inspirational stuff. There's no more, everything has got to go through all that paperwork. It's quite remarkable how much is involved in it these days. So there's no spontaneity left in visiting communities in Northern Australia.
Yeah. Hey,
okay.
so if we do just, if we do talk about what people can experience in northern parts of Australia, we just need to keep it quite broad and let you kind of guide that response. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
Easy.
Yep.
That's fine. So actually, we can just ask that first. The fact that Pont and other lines of respect and show local communities and their cultural conservation, and then you can talk about that. So we get rid of Isabel.
Yeah, we won't talk specifics about any particular tribes or communities or any of that. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
That's good.
No worries.
All right. Now, I know you've done this many times before, Mick, but it's very informal. We're a bit more relaxed, as you can see from the script. And at any time, if you want to repeat a sentence or go back on it, the guys are really great at editing. You don't have any problems at all with doing that.
Yep. We're not live.
Okay. No, it's a good benefit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, but we do at the same time, even though we're not live, we do try to keep that kind of live energy and sort of keep our responses succinct and bounce off each other and have a bit of fun along the way. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Peter, as you know, Peter is just hilarious. He's
so I'm usually made fun of all the way through. So Bernadette isn't here. Otherwise, I'm glad you're here, so I don't feel quite so outnumbered.
I pick on Peter at any opportunity I get. Yes.
Captain Pugnacious, they call me.
I like that.
All
right. So,
Pat,
our audio guys say we are now recording.
The thumbs are up.
All righty. Hello and welcome to another special edition of On Board with Cruise Passenger. I'm Rose Jacobs, your host.
And I'm Peter Lynch, Editor-in-Chief of cruisepassenger.com.au and Cruise and Travel Magazine.
You're pretty important, Peter.
Oh, God.
Now, Peter, I know you are particularly excited about today's podcast.
I am, as they say, beyond excited, but I really am, Rose, because we're talking to Mick Fogg. He's a legend, Director of Expeditions and Destination Development, Asia Pacific for Ponant, one of our favorite lines, and a man who spent 20 years creating bespoke adventures in some of the world's most remote destinations and regions.
Yes, and that's the action man in you, Peter, being excited about this. And I have to agree, Mick Fogg is amazing. When we use the word legend, that makes you sound older than you are. You're definitely still young, Mick, and full of energy. But you have led over 300 expeditions through the sub-Antarctic, Southeast Asia, and the Oceania regions. And Mick's an award-winning wildlife photographer, as well, as if you can't do enough in a short period of time. Welcome, Mick. Howdy. How are you going?
Thanks. Thanks, Rosie and Peter. Yeah, I'm a little bit embarrassed by that, actually. You might have overdone that a bit.
Oh, go on.
My work here is done.
I bet
Okay.
you're not.
Now, stay with us, listeners, as well, because at the end of this podcast, we're going to tell you how you can get an extra 25% of value from a Penant cruise close to home this coming season. And now Penant is, as Peter mentioned, one of our absolute favourite cruise lines. And that's for us at Cruise Passenger. We know our stuff. But for me, it's mostly because of their approach to conservation, which I'm very passionate about.
Absolutely. And on top of that, they're incredibly courteous and concerned about the way they deal with local cultures. Did you know they actually send ahead on each expedition to ask Indigenous elders if it's okay to come ashore wherever they are?
I love that. I
Yeah,
love that. And it is
great.
incredible. But I'm dying to ask Mick, what happens if they say no? No, bugger off.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Well, it's a definite interesting one. And look, it has happened in the past. We always want to keep open communication with our remote communities. And we have had a couple of instances in the past where there's been deaths or something tragic has happened in the remote villages. And we've had to go to another destination. But that's the real key in an expedition cruise is being able to deal with that on the spot, changing the itinerary around to develop, and deliver something very, very similar in just a different location.
I totally hear what you're saying there. I lived in Vanuatu for a few years not long ago, and I actually lived next door to a tribe. And you're right, there are always things happening that could be traditional or cultural or environmental. Cyclones happen, you name it, but it means that they go through periods of being approachable or not, and you need to have an understanding and a respect for that.
I will remember being told the difference between a real expedition cruise and a soft luxury expedition cruise goes like this. It's lunchtime. Everybody's sitting having their lunch, and there are a pot of whales off the port bow. 2 announcements. On a real expedition ship, there's a pot of whales off the port bow. Abandon lunch. It'll be kept in the fridge. Get on the boats now. We're going to see them. But on a different ship, there's some whales off the port bow. Please finish your lunch when you're ready, and if they're still there, we'll get off the ship. Would you agree with that, Mick?
And would you like some more champagne?
Yes, I think it's quite ironical that you say that, Peter, because regularly we are interrupting events, and there are times when our hotel department is a little bit taken aback by when we make announcements, and it cannot always be convenient. And it's Antarctica is a classic for that. With 24 hours of daylight, it's not uncommon to be making announcements in the middle of the night.
Excellent. I'm really looking forward to that as it happens. And indeed, this week, Penant released its first sustainability report, promising eco-designed ships that will have zero impact on the environment.
Wow.
And I was particularly struck by what the CEO said. We see ourselves as having a responsibility to our guests, our employees, and local communities to promote meaningful voyages. That word meaningful, I think, is so powerful and so important.
Yeah, it definitely is, isn't it? And I think that's what has to happen. I think, the clientele, the modern day traveller on a small luxury expedition is looking for that immersive educational experience. It has to be meaningful to the places you're going to, but it also has to be meaningful for the people you're visiting. There has to be a two-way street with that. So we have to open those areas up to people. It gives them an understanding of different cultures and customs, which makes them respect that. And also, too, when it comes to remote areas, you're trying to create ambassadors for those locations. And so all of that, I think, intertwines to becoming a meaningful experience. And the core of that is education.
And when you take people to places like the Arctic or the Antarctic, do you think it substantially changes them when they're coming back? Are they talking about different things?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. Definitely, without a doubt. When we go to those areas of remoteness and because when you walk through a supermarket or you go through a Westfield shopping centre and someone's wanting to talk to you about the environment, it's not in the forefront of your mind. It's not there. But when you've seen it, you go, oh my God, you now understand it. But if you haven't seen it, you don't understand what's going on and what the plight may be it environmental, social, whatever. But once you're taken to that location, I think people's minds are changed. Absolutely.
I
Yes.
remember being told by one expedition leader who dealt in the American market that he would go out with a bunch of American businessmen, and they would all be complaining, oh, the price or politics, oh my God.
My steak's
And
not cooked
exactly.
well enough. Yes.
And then he'd show them one piece of wildlife, maybe a bear, maybe a seal. And on the way back, all the conversation had completely changed. It was like, what are we doing about the environment? How much does it cost? Where can I donate? How can I get involved in the fight for the environment? Completely different group.
Brilliant. So on that note as well, Mick, I've just had an idea. I mean, of course, consultation is happening with these communities that have a voice. What about the wildlife that obviously cannot express whether they are quite keen for you to arrive today or not? The whale pod is just having a bad day. Nope, come back tomorrow. How do you manage that? Who speaks to the animals?
The unknown element. Who speaks to the animals? Well, it's interesting you raised that point, and I think from my own experience spending more time in the tropics, I think if we look at somewhere like Borneo and the orangutans there, taken several voyages into those regions, and part and parcel of that is we adopt an orangutan on behalf of every single guest. So to give them that, so that allows them to then understand what is going on with that. So we will adopt that orangutan. We do it for a year. We hope they continue it. And most of them do for the rest of their lives. It's only a small contribution. But
and
that's
just to
part and parcel
clarify,
of,
sorry, just to clarify, I've also been an ambassador and I've adopted an orangutan. For anyone who hasn't, it doesn't mean you get to take that orangutan home with you.
Thank goodness.
Just to clarify. But you're in fact the first ambassador of the Orangutan Foundation International for the work that you did in Borneo. That's pretty amazing.
And so you actually have
look, very lucky again.
Yes. I'm
And
sorry,
so-
we've all just spoken over.
So you're very lucky.
There we go. You lead, Mick. You go for it.
We'll start again.
Yeah.
No. Look, you're very lucky to have spent time in Borneo, and when you're there, again, what we're talking about is when you see it firsthand, it really drives it home. And I'll never forget traveling up a river and seeing a massive amount of wildlife that's in the trees over the river. And then when we stopped the boat and I walked 50 meters away, all I could see to the end of the horizon was a palm oil plantation.
Oh,
So the only place these animals could survive was along the river edge, and it really brings it home to you. It's a wonderful wildlife experience, but the wildlife is really struggling there. So that led me on to a path of wanting to educate people about that. And again, that combination of being able to take people to these remote areas in comfort and safety on board luxury expedition ships allows them to see it. Otherwise they just wouldn't get there. And then that then opened up the whole avenue of being able to expose people to the plight of the orangutan. And that has led us to this adoption program we do for all of our guests, and also in raising money for locking up the forests. And we've done that. We've raised significant amounts of money on board various vessels over time to maintain those forests and to stop them from being logged down in the first place. Because as Orangutan Foundation International, we don't want to care for orangutans. We don't want them in our care. We want them in the wild.
That's the Band-Aid solution, isn't it? Yeah, you want to get back to the original source of the problem. But for those people that have then been first-hand experience on a Penant adventure, they then go home and educate their family and friends, and then those people are more likely to make informed decisions about the products they purchase that may or may not include the palm oil. And so there are even further positive repercussions that Penant has in the wider community, would you say?
Absolutely. And that's it. It's getting that education across to them with our team of experts on board, and putting them in the place where it's real. And then they take that back and then they spread the word.
I've got to say, I can't think of a better classroom than on a Penant ship. It sounds absolutely fabulous as an experience.
Exactly. Now, Mick, yours is not something I would describe as a desk job. How did you become an expedition leader?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? It's certainly not the average everyday job that I
No.
do, and it's funny because I say, "What do you do for a living?" And I just have to sometimes just cut it down and give a simple answer like,
Or
"Oh,
just hand over your
I work
business
on a ship."
card, expedition leader. Yeah, it's like James Bond. Yeah, yeah, go on. How did it
Yeah,
start?
look, so I spent a fair bit of time working at a university for around about 10 years. I was working at a research station on the reef. And then I left that and went into driving dive boats for a couple of years.
Okay.
And at that time, I actually started my own little boutique company because I'd been to Borneo and was doing trekking across there. And I thought,
Mm,
how do I combine all of this? How
mm.
do I combine all this together and make a career out of travel? How do
Yes,
I do that?
we have a lot in common.
We all want that secret.
Well,
Yeah.
I think wasn't it Mark Twain that said if you can make a vacation from your vocation, then you've won at the game of life? Something
Oh,
I
along those
love that
lines.
quote.
oh, I love that. I'm going to put that on my business card. That's unreal. So, okay,
I'm
so
not sure
with
if
that
that's
in mind,
verbatim, but it's something like that.
I'm going to take that. I love it. Okay, so with that in mind, you play a major role in deciding on which destinations become expedition destinations. I mean, how do you make that decision?
Oh, there's a huge number of them, isn't there? There's a huge amount of destinations to travel to, and which ones do you choose? For
Mm,
me, I really like the destination that people never thought they were ever wanting to go to, but when they get there, think, why didn't I ever want to come here? you
yes,
know, because
yes.
they just don't know about it. How do you find those? And again, I think that comes down to education on board. It is to
Mm,
opening the doorways of why you would want to go somewhere.
mm,
So to create a voyage, you need to have an iconic destination. You need to have somewhere that attracts people to go it, but then you've got to have the surprises. You've got to have the
yes.
little nuances, the little new places. And I think that's what we look at to select destinations. Then before you know it, we have others following us, and it becomes a regular destination on everyone's itinerary.
That's it. And then it's overcrowded and you've got to move on. No.
So,
And then exactly, we keep finding new ones.
Well, yeah.
so it's a mixture of culture and wildlife, really, isn't it? Would that be right,
Oh,
Mick?
look, it is, Peter. It's a matter of trying to find, a unique, bespoke experience, and that could be cultural, historical, wildlife orientated, whatever that may be, and looking for those areas, and it is probably the best part of my job is looking for somewhere new to go. It's just
Yeah.
doing that research and reading things and thinking, wow, I've never heard of this place before. And then,
Mm,
and I think what separates us as a company is that we then do the legwork, and we'll actually go to these places, as remote as they may be, and then discuss with those communities or the people involved, how do we achieve this and how do we make a mutually beneficial relationship out of
That's
this,
fantastic.
and then bring our guests afterwards.
That's amazing. So you'd go to the whoever they are, the leaders, the mayor, the tribal elders, and say, "We're going to bring some guests here." What would their initial reaction be? Have you had some go, "What?"
Have you been
Well,
shot at with poisoned spears at any stage?
thankfully, I've survived most of them, which is good. Some have been a little bit difficult to start with, but most of
Mm,
the time that it's a similar reaction and that is, why would you want to come here? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and
ah,
you, and then they'll say, well, what do you want us to do? We can do this for you. We can do that for you. It's like, no, we don't want to change anything.
yeah.
The important thing here is that it's an authentic experience. We're here to
Wow.
immerse ourselves in the culture. So please don't change anything. You
That
don't
must be
don't want to be
that's
Disneyland.
that must be so humbling to see the look on their faces when they realize that they have something of value just by being themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, when you take guests in for the first time into remote villages, it's one of the most overwhelming experiences you can do, and I love capturing the photographs, and we finish the day and we do the
Yeah.
briefing, and I'll always ask the guests, what did you do today? And when they look back on it, they probably actually didn't achieve anything we set out to, because they were just overwhelmed by all the people that were
Yeah,
there.
that's it.
Nothing went to plan,
Yeah.
everything was thrown out the window.
Yes.
And yet they had the most remarkable time.
I know
So
this.
the
I know
plan
this,
becomes no plan, and then that's the best, the best experience ever.
and I know this is a hard question, Mick. You must be asked it all the time. But personal favourites?
Yeah.
Personal favourites, yeah, it is a hard one, Peter. But to keep it simple, I still think areas like the Kimberley, Eastern Indonesia, that remote archipelago for me, and probably Papua New Guinea.
Wow. Fantastic.
Excellent. And so Ponant does pride itself on ensuring that onshore communities benefit from, what is a luxury lines visit. And I believe you've made a lot of moves on that front to create the right atmosphere and to get guests to understand what they're walking into.
Yeah, and look, exactly, Peter. We spend the time to set up the relationships initially, and then we ensure that the community wants us to go. We ensure that we understand the politics in those communities, particularly in areas like Papua New Guinea, where you've got, 7, 10, 12 tribal elders running the entire village. So you need to get consensus with all of them, and you need to ensure there's transparency there for that. So in dealing directly with them, we ensure that they get the maximum benefit from that, and that's very important to us.
So you want to encourage interaction. I mean, I remember when I first went to Fiji, there's this amazing place where they've actually got that kind of airport style queue. You go in at one side, but what you don't know is there are 4 entrances and 4 groups going into the same one, and you're walking around this so-called village, but actually you're just walking in a set pattern so that you don't meet the other 4 parties who are also doing it.
Goodness.
And when you come out, you realize there are 4 more parties waiting to go in, and you think, oh, this is just terrible.
And then the village must feel like a bit of a zoo on show. That's just tragic.
And you can't possibly talk to anybody there. I mean, what everybody's dying to do, I would say, is to have some interaction so you can actually get to know what people do and ask them and maybe tell them what you do and exchange.
Absolutely, Peter. You're 100% right. The key with it is that we set up the initial contact. So when we arrive at the village, we have to go through the protocol of the welcome, and then there's always a dance performance, because that's part of the ritual of them always accepting people into the village. And then we would encourage everyone to do it. It's remarkable. I always say to guests that, if we go tomorrow and we go into the village and it ran like clockwork, like the other week I was down in Sydney and I watched Moulin Rouge, which is such a great performance, and it is sharp, it's on time.
Absolutely.
When you're in a village in remote Indonesia or Papua New Guinea, nothing goes on time because none of it's rehearsed.
It's island time.
It's real.
You've just made me remember, Mick, one of the best things I ever did was, as you said, it's an unexpected place and time. I was in Myanmar on a work trip, and we got to go right up through the Irrawaddy to some of these remote areas and visit a little school. And it could not have been planned, but the only way we could really kind of communicate and exchange things, it boiled down to songs that we knew and then songs that they knew. So we were kind of singing our best version of Waltzing Matilda.
I can picture this.
And then they gave us their school anthem in return. And it was just absolute chaos and one of the best moments of my life.
That's fabulous. Great story.
Yeah, but I think it is like that when you've said, it's unexpected, you can't plan it, and it's moments of magic that become so memorable.
And it's real. That's the thing that you can't get away from. It's unlike that Fijian village, which was complete. I mean, the worst part is that if you were there at 5 o'clock, you'd see the so-called chief and the elders get on their mopeds with all their gear off and ride home to their real village. Where they'd arrive, walk through the door, and the wife would say, "What kind of day you had?" Oh, Oh, those tourists.
So,
Oh, they're rude.
I'm going to cut you off there. I'm going to move on to this next question here. Now, I'm going to bring it back to the ship and Penance ships in particular.
Oh,
They're a little
lovely.
bit special. The small ships are luxurious, and of course, there's the French heritage. So, like, let's face it, it's the best food and wine and champagne in the world. Am I right?
Stop it.
It's true. Would you agree, Mick? I mean, this is your office, right?
Look, I think it's a great combination. Yes, a fantastic office, and I think the combination there, we're very proud of our French heritage, and being able to combine that, little bit of luxury with really remote areas. And it's funny, isn't it? I've always said it, that it's, as a guest on board, we get to take you slightly out of your comfort zone ashore in remote areas, but then you get to come back to the most comfortable zone.
Oh,
And that's the key with it. Oh, it was so hot out there today. Oh, I suffered for a couple of hours while you're drinking a G&T that's perfectly made. That's what it's like.
Where's my wet flannelette for my brow? Yes, that's right. Amazing.
But there are also, to be more serious, a bunch of experts on board that will actually take you through what you're seeing. So it's an enormous learning curve as well. It's, of course, it's so much better with a glass of champagne, but there's real purpose and value in what you're doing.
Yeah, there is, and exactly, getting serious. We pride ourselves on the education we give, because we don't want you to go to a location, just take a photo and go back to the ship. We want you to go to a location and understand why you're there, understand the reasoning for it and what's special about it. And this, whether that be historical, cultural, environmental, because why did you choose this voyage if it's not to learn about where you're going to go and what you're going to experience? And that creates a holistic holiday for you.
Exactly.
I know, and they're amazingly interesting people. I follow one of your expedition leaders called Laura, actually, and I still remember, I've still actually reposted one of her amazing pieces of video of how a polar bear crosses very thin ice, or lying spread eagle. I've never seen anything like it, and she got so many views of that one small item, slice of life that she witnessed. It's really amazing. I mean, I really recommed anyone
and then
to follow your
That's
your
how
leaders.
you come home on a Saturday night when Teresa isn't sure where you've been. Across the living room floor.
That's certainly skating on thin ice. But the ships themselves, Mick, they're really well equipped, aren't they? So you've got your expedition ships, you've got your Zodiacs, you've got some amazing equipment on board.
And the best leaders that know what they're talking about. Yeah. Phenomenal. And for a
Yeah, look, the
maximum of
ships are
240 guests as well. It's a personal experience.
Yeah, look, the ships are purpose expedition built, but they still were built with the refined luxury, which allows them to be at home in the Mediterranean as much as it does in Antarctica or the Arctic, So with our Zodiacs, our stable marina platforms, easy to get in and off the Zodiacs, go ashore anywhere. But also because of their fantastic lines and the style and set out on board, they're perfectly at home sitting in the Med.
They are indeed beautiful. And look, the latest, Le Commandant Charcot, is really a tremendous advance for expedition ships. Really special. I mean, I think recently it achieved a new milestone, the remote heart of the Northwest Passage. So really, I mean, driving into areas of expedition, not like a soft adventure ship at all. And it's the world's first hybrid electric LNG powered polar expedition ship.
Wow.
An amazing achievement. When's she coming down?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful to try and say that, isn't it?
Love it.
It's she's certainly a game changer. She's different, unique, many years in research and development to concept stage before even a piece of metal was laid down. So what we've done here is tried to integrate our clients with even more of an immersive learning experience. We've taken citizen science to the next level. So we've got working laboratories on board. We
Wow.
have scientists who come on board and actually do real research.
Fabulous.
And so
Mm.
Really
that's
love it.
another level again for it.
That's extraordinary. I can't help but again picture you as James Bond that goes out into the wild and does all the hard work. And then back at home base, you've got Q in the science lab, and doing all this sort of innovative work behind the scenes. And it's just the perfect combination. I love it. Very cool. But now there is also another very special Penant ship that I'd like to talk about. And Peter, I know you're particularly interested in this one.
Ah, yes, Le Penant, a spectacular three-masted sailing ship with room for only 32 guests in 16 staterooms. And she'll be sailing the Kimberley from April next year. I think the Kimberley holds a special place in your heart, right, Mick?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the world's great last wilderness areas. It's remarkable to think that this is our own backyard. Yet we have, it's home to the oldest continuing culture. It's home to the world's largest reptile. It's home to the only 2 horizontal falls. It's home to the world's largest inshore reef system. It's home to the world's largest population of migrating humpback whales.
It's just
Why
amazing.
wouldn't you find it remarkable?
I've got to say, even as you say all of that, I'm humbled by the fact that we're here in the country and can go and see it. Amazing.
And even
It is,
behind
and
you,
it's something everyone should.
sorry to cut you off there, Mick, but even for those who are just listening to the podcast, I can tell you that I can see Mick right now, and behind you, Mick, you've got this incredible artwork that's from the Kimberley region as well. I mean, that's a huge part. For me, I'm really passionate about the Indigenous art from the Kimberley in particular.
Yeah, look, it is, and it's special. It's so nice to have a part of that in my home office. It always reminds me of kind of where I long to be and where my special place is, and the role that our First Nations people play in the Kimberley, and how important those connections are for us as operators there, but also for our clients to understand that 65,000 years plus of history that is in that ancient landscape.
Exactly. And so, I mean, is it possible to come up with an itinerary with that much on offer to explore? How do you how do you do that?
With great difficulty. And the great thing is that there's always a reason to go back.
Yes.
Ah, yes, good
Try
point.
another voyage, do it differently.
Well, and then that leads to the best question
Leave-
of when is the best time to visit the Kimberley?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to answer, because if I had my 15 members of the expedition team here today, each one of them would probably give you a different answer.
Aha.
So I always say that the best time to go is as soon as possible.
Good. I like that. I can
And
work with
preferably
that.
aboard Le Penant, which
Yeah.
I must say, as a yachty, I am just dying to see sailing the Kimberley. It's going to be magnificent sight.
So,
Oh, you and me both, Peter.
Yeah, amazing. And on top of that, you get a seaplane ride.
ooh,
Can't wait.
well, can I tag along too? Now, but Penant isn't the first, it's not the first cruise line to cotton onto the beauty of this region. There are already so many cruise lines that are going to be navigating these waters this summer. So Penant isn't alone in their passion for this area.
Yes, that's true. And in fact, I think Penant has led some of the recent talks with the West Australian government about ensuring that that the region is safeguarded against overcrowding. I think this is going to be our biggest season. Is that right, Mick? Or is it next year when so many ships are coming?
Yeah, look, it's ever increasing, Peter. And I can remember when I first started there was 3 or 4 operators, and today we're at 38 operators along the Kimberley coast. And the numbers are increasing every year, and so everyone's concerned about maintaining that wilderness experience. And I think we just have to take a leaf out of areas like Alaska and Antarctica and work together. And if everyone's working together, then we can come to the table and maintain that wilderness experience. But if people don't want to work together, then we are going to have issues.
Yes, and it's not just making sure that you don't arrive with a bunch of other ships in what should be a remote area. There's also concern about whether or not people are equipped to sail in what is a very difficult area of water.
Look, Peter, it's a really good point you make there, because it is quite treacherous waters. It is areas in which, the soundings, the bathymetric surveys are not as good as they are in elsewhere. And again, this is what sets us apart, because next week I'm actually going up to the Kimberley for 2 weeks, and we are undertaking our own bathymetric surveys on a charter vessel for 12 days. Yep. Because we have new destinations we want to visit with Le Penant, and to ensure that we can do those safely and reliably, we are going up there to create our own charts and to create our own passages. And we would be the only company that would be doing that.
Oh my God, that is so cool. I love that. I mean, most of the lines, I'm sure they're all pretty responsible and they do their best. But and right now I'm picturing, some of these foreign captains from Italy or the Greek islands who, casually sipping their Americano espresso, and then, oh la la, where did this island come from? That was not an Italian or Greek accent, but anyway, it must give you some peace of mind as well, knowing that you've personally played a role in checking, the areas that you're navigating.
Absolutely, and it's the same thing we do with all of our captains. All of our captains will, be an understudy to someone who's had Kimberley experience and spent time in the areas. So we're always doing that and ensuring that there's a good handover procedure from season to season and captain to captain, so that we are not, everyone who's turning up in the Kimberley has experience with those waters, and that's really important. And particularly as the traffic increases, we need to ensure that everyone operating there has that experience and knowledge to operate safely in quite challenging waters.
So the Kimberley really has got an extraordinary indigenous population, and there are extraordinary measures that you put in place to work closely with some of these communities. Tell us a little about how they do play a part.
Look, I think what's great about the Kimberley is that it's traditional land. It's their country. And the great thing about the development of onshore tourism with the First Nations people is that it's allowing them to spend time on their own country. It's allowing them to go back to country, to actually go back to managing their sacred sites, having an ability to get there, and that ability to get there is funded through tourism. So for me, it works very much as a mutually beneficial relationship, because we're able to provide our clientele with that lovely interaction with First Nations people. We're able to have them in those wonderful rock art galleries telling their stories to our guests, and that's an amazing experience. But it then allows them to remain on country as well, and to get back on country. And that's a really important thing for their connection to the land, which is so important to them.
Very good.
Now I'm going to change the subject just ever so slightly, and put it back on you, Mick. I've been told that you're quite a talented photographer. And no doubt this has been helped by some of these incredible destinations that you've spent time in. I mean, maybe some people can just accidentally take a great shot no matter what they photograph.
That'd be me.
There'd be Peter sitting on his phone by mistake and taking some masterpiece.
That would be me.
Yeah. Oops, pocket shot. There it goes. Put that on the wall. But I'm sure that's not the case for you. You must have some genuine talent involved here. But, these places must be very inspiring for your photography all the same.
Oh, they are very much so. And look, as you mentioned, I've been lucky enough to travel to so many places and be in the right place at the right time, but also lucky enough to have spent time with some wonderful photographers from Australia and overseas. So they've been able, I'll start that again. So
Yep.
I've been lucky enough to be in those right time and places. And that's important when it comes to wildlife photography in particular. But I've also had great opportunities of being on board vessels with some of the greatest renowned photographers in the world, and also from
Wow.
Australia, so the be able to get them to give you some guidance has certainly helped me remarkably. And yeah, it's been a passion I've had for many, many years.
I'm sure the subjects helped as well. Look, now it's time to throw some really quick fire questions at you, Mick. So, as the psychologists say, just respond with the first thing that comes into your mind.
There's no right or wrong here.
So, what's your favorite part of the world?
The Kimberley.
Nice answer. Okay, next. What is the one outstanding bucket list expedition experience that everybody should do in their life?
The Kimberley.
Which animals are you most concerned about at the moment? And there aren't Kimberleys.
Oh, interesting enough, I think it's no. I can't say the Kimberley. But interesting enough, I would have to say koalas. I would have to say koalas
good
at the
answer,
moment, living in
actually,
New South Wales.
In the current climate, that's for sure. Okay, next
Yeah.
one. Why is Penant the best way to experience expedition?
Luxury small ships, highly skilled staff, and beautiful food and wine.
Good answer.
You've got us.
Okay, next one as well. Is it true that you'll get to, when you're with Le Penant in the Kimberley, you get to experience a vintage Grumman Mallard seaplane from Pasquale, the Pearl Company? Did I pronounce that?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
it's true.
Don't say that was a
It
loaded
is
question
true.
at all. Who needs onboard helicopters when you can have beautiful flying boats like that?
That wasn't a question. Okay, now, next
Good
question. Mick, have you had any memorable encounters with wildlife? Crocs, Komodo dragons, scenery, and if so, what?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have a few. I think, places like Macquarie Island, where you can lie down and have, juvenile elephant seals come up and lie next to you, or even try and lie on top of you.
Wow. Oh my
And
gosh.
going to places like that where the wildlife doesn't fear you because you're a human being. They just think you're another animal. I think those are the most humbling experiences. And for anyone who's stared eyeball to eyeball with whales, it's another one of the most remarkable things you can do as well. So, and orangutans, having them stare at you and examine your soul is the remarkable one.
I just
Where
got
do I stop?
goosebumps. Oh my goodness.
I'm trying to imagine myself staring at a whale, but I don't think I can. So what can you do on the ships for those that are already really very excited by the whole idea we've been talking about? What kind of activities do you have?
So depending on the environment, Peter, obviously we're not going to go kayaking in the Kimberley, but we'll certainly do that in areas like the Arctic and Antarctica, and certainly in the more tropical zones like Papua New Guinea and East Indonesia, where we have our kayaks, our stand-up paddle boards. We also offer diving as well, providing all the equipment, and we have our dive masters on board. Obviously, our Zodiacs to get everyone ashore and to explore those far-flung regions and enjoy that from the luxury of a small boat with your own guide on board. So I think they're sort of the things we're looking at.
Oh, wow. Okay, now this is the last question with the quick fire here, Mick. But I have to ask, before, of course, you sail off into the distance with your Zodiac, what is next in store for Penant after the Kimberley? Give us a quick exclusive reveal for 2023 and beyond.
So for Le Penant, yeah, we're going to have to go through that Indonesian archipelago up through the remote areas, areas like Raja Ampat, up into Kimby Bay, Morovo Lagoon,
the Pink
all of
Beach.
those little areas.
Bring it on.
They're amazing new areas, aren't they? They're really so close to us.
They're just
and
remarkable.
Undiscovered. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So
great.
Absolutely. I think they're just perfectly designed for sailing ships. And that's one of the key things we've done in designing the itineraries is ensuring that we've put in time just to sail. because that's what you want to do on a sailing ship.
Oh, yes,
That's
I
right.
do. I can't
The wind
wait.
in your hair, Peter.
I'm afraid it's not the same sailing my little hunter around the Sydney Harbour.
Oh, show
Well,
off.
Mick, I've just decided you've got the best job in the world. So where do I apply to be your assistant?
I love it. I can see it now. You two on a little zodiac together. What could go wrong?
Oh, dear.
What could possibly go wrong?
So true.
I'll be in the seaplane. Thanks so much. Oh, Mick, we can't thank you enough for your time today. We know that you've got a lot on your plate. Very
Fabulous.
exciting stuff right around the corner.
Very
and
inspiring.
we can't wait to be following your adventures.
No worries. Well, thank you very much for allowing me the time today, and it's always great. I love talking about what I do and where we take our guests. And you're right, Peter. It's often times when I pinch myself and think, how did I end up here, and how have I got this job, and how lucky I really am. So, but that's okay. I've got a wonderful wife, and she often grounds me, so that helps.
Yeah, look, you look as if you really love it, and I think that's 90% of the battle. So really inspiring to talk to you. Congratulations on what you do.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Mick.
you for your time.
Thank you so much. And now we'll just pause here and make sure that we've got the right outro.
Yep. We're going there.
Content. Okay. Thanks. All right. And while Pennant's 2023 Kimberley season still has some availability, the line has just released its 2024 Kimberley season program, which I'm sure won't last long. So Pennant operates small luxury expeditions every year on their expedition purpose-built vessels from April through to September between Broome and Darwin. So book your Kimberley luxury expedition with Pennant. Contact your preferred travel agent and call 1300 737 178 or visit au.pennant.com.
And full-timers will receive a
First time.
do that again.
Yep.
And first-timers will receive a $400 discount per person as a welcome offer I'm going to do that again.
Yep.
First-timers will receive a $400 discount per person as a welcome offer. And there's a 25% extra value on many cruises. Conditions apply.
Well, I'm imagining you're about to book your trip, Peter.
I'm on the phone right now.
And that's our action hero who sails the Sydney Harbour at twilight.
Yes, that's as exciting as I get, Mick.
That's still pretty cool. Okay. And of course, the next edition of Cruise and Travel, our gorgeous print magazine, is on sale now at selected newsagents, or you can subscribe cruisepassenger.com.au/magazine. Thank you again, Mick Fogg from Pennant. That's it for Cruise Passenger today. Have an awesome afternoon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Great to talk to you.
Thank you, Mick.
Thank you.
You champion. Really appreciate your time
great
today.
stuff.
That was an awesome record.
I
Cool.
hope you enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's always good. It's easy to do things just off the cuff and general conversations.
Definitely.
So it's nice.
Yeah. No, that really came across. That was really fun.
Excellent. Well, look, have a wonderful time, the Kimberley, you lucky devil. And I am very determined to get on Le Pennant because I think it does look like a great experience. I think it'll absolutely wipe the floor with everyone. It just is so special.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it's going to be really unique. I just think we need to get people like yourself on there to get the images out, to get the message out, because it's so different to what we're currently doing and what anyone else is doing that it's kind of hard for people to picture why is it different? Why is it going to be so special? And I think that's what we need. We just need to get imagery and experiences out into the general public.
Yeah,
I'll put your name forward, Peter.
Please do. I'll be there. Just
I'll carry your baggage.
I'll sleep
Peter.
on the decks. Don't worry.
Amazing. Thank you again, Mick.
Thanks again, Mick.
We'll chat
Terrific.
to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
No worries at all. Thank you so much. Bye.